Rewind the dynamite from the post-wrestling site. AEW, lighting up the fuse. Sit back and enjoy the bubbly as we hear from John and Wai Ting. Where we're going, we don't need roads. And if the buck stops here, this thing might blow. Everything you hear are opinions of the show. And if you don't like it, go to the forums and let them know.
Welcome to Rewind-A-Dynamite. John Pollock Wai Ting here. Hello, Wai.
Hey, John, how you doing?
I'm doing astounding.
Astounding. Oh, didn't expect that. All right. Well, that's great. Good to hear. Can't do better than that.
Yes. How was your day?
It was good, actually. I spent the last evening in a small town north of Toronto called Tobermory, and where I just had a bit of an overnight stay in a lodge, and so I just came back really just in time for Dynamite. So I haven't even washed the lake water off of my body yet. I'm still, right from the lake to AEW.
Okay, well, welcome back to the city. We missed you. How far away? How far was this? Like driving?
Ooh, it was like a 4-hour drive, man.
Oh, that far? Yeah, that is pretty significant.
Yeah, but it was fun.
That's good. It's always fun to get away from the city and realize, wow, there's a whole different world here within the province of Ontario. There's so many great places to go.
Yeah, being in Toronto, we get such a bad reputation for having like a terrible beach, terrible water, like polluted. Just
all fair critiques.
Don't get in Lake Ontario, everybody, if you're ever in Toronto. But you drive a few hours away, it's incredible. Like the nature, the scenery is incredible. Like the water's clean, so I highly recommend it.
Well, I will do that. I will leave Toronto next week.
You will, yes, that's right. I believe you have something scheduled as well. So I look forward to some of your travel stories, John.
That's about just as far. So I will report back. But we have Dynamite to discuss tonight. We have many things on the agenda for tonight's show. The go-home edition of Dynamite for Rampage on Friday.
That is pretty much it. Although, I mean, you got some match announcements, but no mention of the main event. To us, at least. To most people.
They mentioned Daniel Garcia. Plenty.
Sure.
Was that surprising to you? Did you think that there would be something overt, a wink and a nod? Because really, we got nothing.
I thought at the very least you would have Darby, or at least something akin to Darby saying best in the world. You got nothing. So they are really relying on the hardcores to, just...
And Kenny Omega's t-shirt designs. That's what they're relying on.
I guess so. Yeah, super subtle.
Yeah, it was... I mean, it's two different things. I think that you can look at it in the sense that, okay, this subtle tease sold all these tickets, but you're not talking about a live event anymore. You're talking about a television event on Friday night, on a difficult night to begin with. And will there be anything over the next 24, 36 hours that are going to be more of a hard push? We are in an environment where this entire audience listening knows what to expect and what to anticipate on Friday, but to hit your maximum audience doesn't require a bit more of that promotion. And it will be interesting if they do anything over the next day or so going into Friday night, or if they're just going to leave it to tune in and we're going to have faith that this buzz is going to travel throughout the next 2 days.
If there's going to be anything, you would expect it to be on, the most watched show attached to the brand 2 weeks,
Yes.
2 days out. But again, everybody watching Dynamite already probably knows what's going to happen on Fridays. Maybe it's a different type of promotion if the idea is to try to get those hardcores, or at least get those non-hardcore fans to sample AEW Rampage.
I don't know if everyone's expecting this way, because on my timeline, not to say this is the majority, it's definitely the minority, but man, there are folks that are just not convinced that this guy's showing up until they see him with their own eyes. It's like there is an audience that has been their fandom has been nurtured through disappointment and swerves, that they will not buy into this. It's just amazing.
Well, there's a possibility, I suppose.
I would say no way. There is absolutely no possibility.
I mean, the guy could get caught in in foot traffic. Like he might not.
They
be
will
able to
helicopter him into that arena. They will make sure that guy is there. Like literally, unless you want to kill Chicago, this man will be there on Friday.
I think it's it's pretty safe to say he probably will be. But you know what? Like, listen, let the doubters have their fun. They want to be surprised, and they're going to have a hell of a reaction on Friday.
Yeah, to the audience that wants it to be a big swerve and MJF just comes out to his music and that's the payoff. Well, find out on Friday. Yeah, what an awesome idea that would be to not deliver the guy. But hey, I'm certainly not the first person to say this, but as we go deeper and deeper and you're seeing like AEW really solidify itself to the North American audience, it's as much of a battle for them, I think, to like there is a huge amount of people that they have gone the last 20 years and they have their way of how WWE wrestling works and have talked about wanting an alternative. But when you are seeing people doing pro wrestling differently, it's somehow seen as not right or different and totally messing with the thinking of just logic for one.
You're saying that in this case in their promotion of CM Punk, people are feeling that way?
Anyone who is looking at Friday and thinking it could be a swerve and he's not showing up tells me like you are totally in this mindset of just illogical booking that would be absolutely detrimental. Like that is an insane idea to even ponder.
No, I certainly don't. Yeah, I think doing the right thing is, exactly what they're doing right now. To me, like what you can definitely question, as maybe ineffective or unconventional is them not hitting hard enough the fact that Punk will be there on Friday.
Oh yeah,
that to me is
we're talking about different things now. I'm talking about people that would actually entertain the idea of not delivering on Friday. Right. Like that's just crazy talk. Yes, you can certainly talk about how far, like you've sold this to an audience. You are going to have a full building there, but you want to maximize this audience on Friday night and make this an event on television for Friday.
Yeah. So, I mean, on the one hand, what they're doing is, I think, completely logical and completely traditional, but there are some elements of it that I feel are certainly different and questionable. But you know what? Things have really worked out for this company over the course of its existence. And certain gambles have really paid off, including, on a much smaller scale, tonight with this entire audience singing Judas, which surprised the hell out of me. They actually got it going.
I was impressed that they pulled it off as well as they did, but I mean, AEW pushed this hard throughout the week on social media. Like they were shoving the audience in this direction, and it paid off. It was a cool moment. I thought for sure when Jericho walked out and the crowd started going, I thought TSN would be going to commercial.
Yeah,
that's a win on their part. They stayed with it. I thought for sure. It's like, this will be the ultimate TSN cutaway moment, but they did do it. Let's just quickly talk about what is coming up. Or let's go backwards first, because we have the second edition of Talk, Pollock and Wai, with a cameo by Pauline on the show. The behind the scenes of the wedding. What a fun chat that was.
Yes. My new, brand new partner officially now joined us on Talk. It was she is the very first official guest on Talk, and you know what? A very significant week for me in my life, and who better than to bring on than her to talk about some of the stresses of wedding planning during a pandemic. But perhaps of most interest to the audience listening to this is a behind the scenes look at how John Pollock puts together one of these profiles, and for me, a real insight into how much I have revealed of myself on the internet throughout my 20 years of being online, because this was certainly a wake-up call, everybody. There's a lot of shit about me on the internet, and there's probably a lot of shit about all of you too that's on the internet. And if there's a John Pollock in your life who decides to one day create an audio documentary about you, you know what? You can only be so lucky, because I loved the documentary, of course, and maybe I even liked hearing how you put it together just as much.
Well, it was fun to share with you all of my tricks, and probably the last time I will ever do this for somebody in my life, for somebody close to me.
Well, it's an honor, honestly.
With all due respect to Ziggy. Let's also chat about this week. So Thursday, Wai is going to be back with the inimitable WH Park for
not just WH Park. I have not seen I have not seen this week's episode of What If yet, but I believe it features one Chadwick Boseman.
It does. And with his voice, like this would have been one of the last things that he did. This was, we've got the voice of Chadwick Boseman on this week.
Did you watch it already, John?
No, but I had a live edition of MCU later this morning over coffee, so I'm up to speed.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, Nate Milton himself, a few weeks ago requested that when Chadwick Boseman comes on What If, he wants to join us on MCU later. And so that is what is going to happen tomorrow night, everybody. Nate Milton, the Godfather, returns to MCU later to talk about What If.
Wow. So we've got Wai and Park plus Nate.
Doesn't work as well.
No, it doesn't. But I look forward to
double dose of Nate this week.
You can never get enough of Nate Milton. So look forward to that on Thursday for all members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. Friday, we are live 11:15 Eastern because we will be coming at you right after the big edition, SmackDown from Phoenix, Arizona, on the eve of SummerSlam as they perform the final waltz before the big show at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. We will be talking about Reigns and Cena. They've done the contract signing. They've done the face-to-face. What do we have left? What can they do?
Jeez, I don't know, man. Usos and Dominic and Rey Mysterio, that's going to be huge. They don't even have to talk about that. I think we all know, us hardcores, know what to expect there.
And, of course, the first dance to follow it. And to get ahead of everyone, because I've already been asked this throughout the week, I'm going to repeat it multiple times, I think, over the next 48 hours. If you're in Canada, AEW will be airing live at 10 Eastern on TSN Direct and through their website, and then on a 1-hour delay on TSN2 at 11 Eastern. So we will be live right after the live version of Rampage. So look forward to that.
Set your PVRs if you're going to record it on TV for 11 o'clock, okay? If you're going to watch it live on the internet, then you can watch it at 10 o'clock. Please don't complain afterwards and say,
spoiler.
John Pollock didn't tell me to record at 11 o'clock. He didn't set my PVR for me.
What? Get lost. That's going to be my response. Get lost. And then Saturday night, Wai is leaving us. He is gone again. So it will be maybe the one and only edition of John and Kate plus Nate. It is the SummerSlam post show. Kate from Montreal, Nate from Virginia, John Pollock representing Canada. We will be live right after SummerSlam to break down the entire event. Take your calls. We will be live for Double, Ice Cap, and Espresso members of the Post Wrestling Cafe. The rest out there will get the show late Saturday night whenever Wai gets home. And then Sunday, it's NXT TakeOver 36. Have you looked at the NXT TakeOver logo?
No, I to be quite honest, I haven't been paying as much attention to NXT lately. So tell me about the NXT TakeOver logo.
It's very bad because you look at it and it looks like it says 35, but it's 36. It drives me nuts.
You are absolutely
I've gone to
right.
write it 35 so many times because of that logo and have to remind myself it's a 6 and not a 5, but it looks so much like a 5.
It is a terrible
it's a terrible logo.
Of bad graphic design unintentionally. Like WWE usually kills it with their graphic design, but this is really an unfortunate case of numbers and fonts not quite working out their way. Interesting.
Just a mess. So there you go. Lots of stuff. And Braden and Davey will go live after TakeOver, twitch.tv/upnextpodcast. We have you covered for everything on the site, podcast-wise, Post Wrestling Cafe, postwrestling.com. You're home.
Yeah, and let's not forget about Up Next Summer happening this weekend as well.
I can't overstate the big event of the weekend. They're doing a tailgate on Saturday, and then Sunday at 4 p.m. Eastern time. It is Up Next Summer with some of the best graphics in the game, courtesy of Dickie Bird, and we've got Braden Harrington defending his Up Next championship against Fire Frank, but in a case where the undercard might overshadow the main event, it is the rap battle between John Cena and Davey Portman. One man with a Wu-Tang tattoo on his back, but Davey Portman with a Davey fucking Portman tattoo all over my body.
Wow. Okay.
Way is not up to date on these promos yet, I can tell.
I'm not, unfortunately, but that to me, it sells itself. I've already got my ticket. You know, they don't even have to mention it. I'm already there. The people's main event, dare I say it. Twitch.tv/UpNextPodcast. And you know what? Just on the note of John Cena, he and B Detroit are doing a weekly Heels podcast. Heels on Stars. Some of you guys have asked, hey, are you going to watch Heels? Are you going to be talking about it? John, are you watching Heels?
No, I haven't seen the episode.
I have not either. I don't even know if I'll have enough time to fit in my schedule. But somebody who has plenty of time to fit everything in his schedule seemingly is John Cena. He and B Detroit are doing a weekly review of it, and that's available, I believe, every Monday on the Up Next feed for free. So subscribe to Up Next.
All right. Postwrestling.com. You can get all of our information, news, schedule, all that great stuff. Let's move on over to the news. And in an update on Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks, PWInsider.com's Mike Johnson reported on Wednesday that the two are cleared to perform and both are expected to be at SmackDown and then the match on Saturday. So that appears to be the latest on them. So it looks like the match is going ahead after they missed the house shows last Saturday and Sunday. Ratings notes. Raw did 1,857,000 viewers, 713,000 in the 18 to 49 demo. Those are their best numbers since July 19th, which was the first night back with fans coming off Money in the Bank. And then NXT on Tuesday night did 654,000 viewers, down from 751 last week. And they were down 44,000 viewers in 18 to 49. More in line with the range they were around before those sci-fi shows. Last week was a pretty good number for NXT, so somewhat coming back down to earth for this go-home episode. I know you haven't had a chance to see it, Wai, but NXT was highlighted by... What kind of segment do you think they would present on the final show before SummerSlam? What would be completing the trifecta from SmackDown, Raw, and NXT?
A wedding. What else? An engagement.
That's going to be in a few weeks, it looks like, because that's what we're going to get with Dexter Lumis and Indy Hartwell, because after Dexter Lumis lost the Love Her or Leave Her match, that precipitated date 1, and now they're engaged after week 2. So the wedding could be week 3 for all we know.
Listen, relationships move fast these days. You know, these
they
people,
do.
Yeah, like who knows how much opportunity? Who knows how long either of them are going to be sticking around NXT? You want to pop the question? You got to take some risks. You got to do it now.
Yeah, maybe you should have gone this fast. You wouldn't have had to worry about the pandemic. You should have just proposed and done it the next week.
You know, if we were developmental NXT wrestlers, yes, I probably would have.
So the show was headlined by the two members of the main event at TakeOver. One showing up with their face, the other appearing with a face, and they faced each other, face to face. And then they brawled fist to fist, and then they crashed barricade through barricade, and then they were pulled off by security to end the show.
It tends to be how face-to-faces have been going these days, but did this feel like the WWE-ification, the main roster-ification of NXT, do you feel like that's been continuing with this episode?
Not so much. Like, I think this TakeOver card looks very good on Sunday. I think like they've got a very strong lineup. We had Ilya Dragunov on this show. He actually replaced Kushida, who got pulled at the last minute because he was not medically cleared. So we got a great match between Roderick Strong and Ilya Dragunov. But when you look at that match with Walter, Cross and Joe, I'm sure the match will be fine, but I'm much more interested in how they book this match and how it goes off. Like, it's a very intriguing match when you look at that. They showed a prime target for Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly. That's going to be a huge part of the show on Sunday. And then they're doing a rematch with LA Knight and Cameron Grimes for the latest time. So overall, I would say like NXT, I think they're going to have a very hot show on Sunday. And beginning next week, I mean, if there is a next evolution, next chapter of NXT, maybe we're going to get a sense of it during this next cycle once they get through this whole takeover build that they've been promoting for weeks and peaking with all of these different programs. And one of the biggest questions is going to be Adam Cole and what is next for him.
Certainly. Yeah, the booking of this show I think will be really telling perhaps. But we can always count on the wrestling to be really strong on these shows, no matter what the TV might be like. That certainly goes for the main roster, and that doubly goes for NXT. And, it's not really been a promotion that's been receiving very good press lately. This is their chance to turn that ship around and get people coming out of this show talking about what a must-see show it was.
What else do we have here? So New Japan announced that Shingo Takagi and Bushi, who were pulled from Sunday show in Shizuoka, their tests came back positive for COVID-19. They stated that their fevers have gone down and their conditions have not worsened, but they are obviously going to be off for the foreseeable future, and we wish them full recoveries from COVID. Just the latest news to really hit New Japan hard. Shingo Takagi still scheduled for that match with Evil coming up the first weekend of September. And they have also announced that it will be Hiroshi Tanahashi and the returning Kota Ibushi on September 4th at the MetLife Dome for the IWGP United States title, which I guess technically you can't say there's 0% chance because you could do it, but I would say this greatly, greatly, greatly reduces any chances of Tanahashi working all out. Unless he pulls like a Drew Parker from doing Big Japan and GCW earlier this month, but I do not think they will be going to that length.
I don't think so either. I'm pretty sure I saw a photo of him on Instagram flying back to Japan, and I don't even know what the current quarantine protocol may be.
But to leave Japan to get to the US, I mean, it's getting to Japan that's the difficult part. Leaving Japan and getting to the US, you could do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna.
But I do not at all see that happening. Nor are they pushing that on TV.
Nor does All Out, I think, need it. If Tanahashi's gonna come back to do a run, that really could be a bigger deal on its own.
That could be the San Jose show in November potentially.
Sure. Yeah. So, I feel like he will. The door is open. The forbidden door is no longer forbidden, and we'll probably see him eventually, but probably not at All Out.
And Kota Ibushi, this is the first match he's been announced coming back for as well. So New Japan is off for the week, and then they resume the Summer Struggle Tour next Tuesday, and we will see what roster members are there, which are not, but Shingo Takagi and Bushi will be off for the foreseeable future.
It's really great news for Kota Ibushi. I mean, it means, first of all, the guy's healthy enough to be able to come back. It means he'll probably be around for the G1. And hopefully, Shingo and Bushi are going to be okay before that as well.
And a nice, easy match to just ease yourself back into where the standard people are expecting is minimal, right?
No, unfortunately not. I mean, it is a stadium show, but it's Tanahashi. Like if there's somebody who's able to maybe make the most out of what limitations you might see from Kota Ibushi, which will probably be none, it'll be him.
Yeah, and that will probably be the main event of the first night.
Unless Shingo comes back before.
Well, I mean, he's doing his match with Evil is the next night. I don't see him doing title matches both nights. So that's probably your headliner. The last thing before we go to Dynamite is that on Tuesday night, I did get a chance to watch all of AEW Dark. I'm not going to run through the whole show, but just a few observations from watching it. They did put Dante Martin and Lee Moriarty in the main event slot, and it was not a very long match, but man, Dante Martin feels like he has turned a corner in the last week, just in terms of the fan perception. I think we talked about this recently about follow-up and how important that is. We got the great performance last week. Not everybody is watching Dark, but for those that did, he was put in a featured spot, had a really entertaining match. And then tonight on Dynamite, they went to the trouble of at least putting together a quick video package on his performance and making him the standout performer. So I thought that was great handling of Dante Martin, and I really enjoyed this main event and just the mindset of a show that did feature Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, who were challenging for the tag titles the next night. You had like notable names on this, but they went with Dante Martin and Lee Moriarty to put in the main event slot where they scheduled the matches. Also on the show, Lee Johnson and Brock Anderson are starting to team up. I think like they have like the two are very green, but I think as a team, there's something there between these two that I would like to see this tag team develop. And on the smaller shows, such as AEW Dark, they faced a team with Joey Keys and Spencer Slade, but that was one notable part. And the spot of the show was Rey Fenix. He hit this spinning cutter coming out of the corner onto Cole Carter that just looked amazing. It was this 6-man with Death Triangle going over Chaos Project and Cole Carter. And this spot just looked unbelievably great. And then the other thing here was the angle with Thunder Rosa and Penelope Ford when Ford beat Masha Slamovich and then was beating her up afterwards. Thunder Rosa runs down, and that set up the match for tonight's Dynamite that we'll get into. But I thought this was like a really entertaining edition of Dynamite. It was 90 minutes, but it's so fast-paced, and I really like someone like Ali Moriarty being put there. It's going to draw some people to want to see a match like that when you're pairing him with Dante Martin, where you're probably not going to have time for that on a Dynamite or Rampage. So it was a fun show to watch. This was taped in Pittsburgh last Friday. So let's go into Dynamite from the Fertitta Center in Houston, Texas. And before the show, Sammy Guevara, in his hometown, proposed to his girlfriend, Pam. And they would show this later on in the program. And during the opening, they go to a group of signs, one of which reads, right for the camera, CM Punk isn't here. Which he was not.
Nope.
He was not in Houston. Moxley and Kingston came out, and they immediately get attacked by 2.0 and Daniel Garcia, where Garcia's got a lead pipe, and 2.0 storm into the ring. They take the microphone, and Matt Lee says that they have taken out Moxley and Kingston, so Sting and Darby don't have any backup, and calls them out for their match. And Sting makes his big entrance. They're promoting the fact that it's been 20 years since he competed on TNT. And while he's making his grand entrance, Darby appears from behind 2.0 in the ring and attacks him with the skateboard. And the match begins. Sting is super over. It's a Texas Tornado match, so essentially no rules. They brawl into the concourse area. Garcia is involved in the attack, so it's 3-on-2 for the beginning portion. They went for the 2 for the show, sending Darby Allin into the ceiling in the lobby area. And then as they make their way to the floor, Darby scales down the balcony, diving onto all 3. This is when Eddie Kingston returns for a big pop. Sting and Darby are able to bring a table into the ring, and Darby gets dropped onto the wheels of his skateboard by 2.0 on the ramp. And this is when Tony Schiavone notes Sting's knee injury that he suffered in 1990. That 31-year-old nagging knee injury that could cause a problem here in 2021. And Sting ends up taking a powerbomb by 2.0 through a table. Darby returns, and he shoves 2.0 into a double Scorpion Death Drop, and then Sting applies a double Scorpion Deathlock to both members of 2.0 who tap out together in 6 minutes and 15 seconds. And this audience was just having an explosive reaction to Sting.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And, unlike, I think, your usual Darby Sting combination matches, I mean, they are putting a lot of the focus behind Sting and making him continue to feel special with limitations that he clearly has. But, I mean, coming out of this, you don't think about his limitations. You think about really memorable spots, like him taking that double suplex off through a table and then him no-selling it. I don't usually love guys no-selling big spots for no reason, but I love it when that guy is Sting. You need to book spots around what he can do to make him look like an attraction, and I thought this was one of those. The double Scorpion Deathlock was another great spot you could design to make him look special without requiring a great deal of physicality around him. The point is, you come out of this match remembering these things. These things are surprising, they stick with you, and they make Sting wrestling feel like a welcome addition to this otherwise incredibly physical style of wrestling that you typically get on this show. It, to me, built Sting to a nice level so that next time you promote him for a match again, you'll probably get a good deal of anticipation.
And 2.0 were not just the doormats here. They had a great segment on the Road to video they put out this week. And just giving Matt Lee some mic time here, I thought they showed, they were here to be the opponents, but I thought they were able to display a lot of personality as well. And I think this is a great team for AEW to go after. And look what they did with them in just a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And they're to be a very valuable team who are, I think, great at getting baby faces to look tremendous, including here Sting. And I imagine they'll probably do the same next with Moxley and Kingston.
So they showed the footage of Sammy Guevara proposing to his girlfriend earlier in the night. She said yes. And we cut to Shawn Spears and Tully Blanchard, who are laughing, stating it must be slim pickings here in Houston. And Shawn Spears says that Pam, his fiance, can be in the pinnacle and be on top for one night only. This asshole.
Ouch, dirty lines, but you know what? Great heel lines.
So Sammy Guevara comes out, heroes welcome, against Shawn Spears, who's got Tully in the corner. Pam is in the front row. And Spears attacks Sammy on the ramp. And Sammy comes back and does a dive off the ramp. Spears then sidesteps, sending Sammy into the steps. And then him and Tully execute a spike pile driver to injure Sammy's neck. The bell finally rings when Sammy is rolled into the ring. And Tully gets ejected. And Sammy fights back. He goes for a double springboard cutter off the top, which misses. They go through the break, and a guardrail is placed between the barricade and the ring, and it's just laying there. And you know someone's going to die here. So the two fight to the top rope. They're both balanced up there, and Spears gives him the middle finger, and Guevara hits a top rope cutter and a huge near fall. Spears comes back, hits the C4 off the turnbuckle. He gets the big near fall. The whole crowd is chanting for Sammy. They fight on the edge of the apron, and Spears gets sent off with a Death Valley driver through this balanced guardrail. Sammy rolls him in, hits the 630. It's a recreation of how Stadium Stampede 2 ended, and I swear, every last person in the Fertitta Center bit on this finish. I think everyone thought this was the end. This was a huge near fall spot as Spears kicks out and Sammy finishes him. The knee pad is down. He delivers 3 knee strikes, one of which just busts open Spears, and he is bleeding all over the place. And Guevara hits the GTH in 9 minutes and 49 seconds.
Really great match. I thought a lot of really big spots. I feel like the crowd, I think, really carried this one, but the action was really tremendous too. There are moments where I think Spears really tries to wrestle that very cerebral style, and it doesn't necessarily work for me, at least in the context of like AEW. At times it feels a little bit boring, I have to say, but the crowd was able to really lift this one to make it feel like it was a special match with Sammy being incredibly over. So he comes out of this one, I really feeling like, like a near main eventer, I think.
Yeah, I thought Spears looked really good in this. I thought this was one of his better outings in AEW. And with Guevara, he continues to be someone that, he's had these big wins. And then he did have the MJF loss. But, tonight was just a big spotlight on him. And I thought it was just, again, like last week, great utilization of someone in their hometown that made him feel huge. So I think there's a lot of interest on Sammy Guevara because he really does not have a program for All Out. So yeah, this sort of just felt like a chance to spotlight him in his hometown. And, he seems like he is on the cusp. He's just lacking that big next step post Inner Circle and the whole feud with the Pinnacle, which kind of feels like it's reaching its conclusion.
I think so too. Yeah, and it makes you wonder, what is sort of like his ceiling while still being a part of the Inner Circle. They've teased the breakup and they've gone against the breakup, and I don't know if you have to break them up in order to elevate Sammy to that next level role. But can they successfully achieve that? Have maybe Jericho somehow be able to step down while having Sammy step up?
Shivani, who this had to be a record for the amount of throws to Tony Schiavone in the back tonight. They even joked about it, that he had to have like travel miles tonight based on how many times he was in the back. He must have done 100 interviews. He's interviewing Christian Cage. He's got the Impact and TNA titles. Don Callis interrupts, bringing up their 25-year history, and says, that's all great that you won. Now you get to take a one-winged angel, but at least you get to have a 5-star match with Kenny at All Out. And Don is on top of the wrestling world. Christian, you're still doing wrestling matches. That's really great. Cage says, you're not in my head. I'm taking the AEW Championship at All Out. And you, Don, are still a carny piece of shit.
Reminds the Dynamite audience about the win on Friday, and continues that build to All Out.
Then they did the feature on Dante Martin's performance last week, and comments from Dante that he took Kenny Omega to the limit, and next time he will be that much better, and he's a name that everyone knows. So not like a huge feature, but I like the fact that they felt the need to carve out some time to remind you of something, because there are a lot of things that happen every week on Dynamite, and it becomes easy to forget about some of them after several weeks. So I like the fact that they went to that and understood that Dante was one of the major talking points coming out of last week's show, that maybe that was the hope last week, but I can't imagine they expected it would deliver to the degree it did. Like, he was one of the big stories coming out of last week.
Completely. It's all well and good to praise somebody for a great performance, but if it's not mentioned the next week, it's pretty much for nothing. So I hope this continues for Dante Martin.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I mean, they probably took their cues after all those video packages of Ricochet after Money in the Bank.
Yes.
Tony Schiavone is in the ring, and Dan Lambert is back, everyone. And he has brought his muscle. The two men that I'm sure everyone predicted we would see in an AEW ring this year, Andre Arlovsky and Junior Dos Santos. And Lambert, I don't know how many times this guy cut this promo in his bathroom this week. It had to have been 100. Because that's what his volume was at here. He says that AEW has brought cancel culture here, affecting his free speech, and noted that the UFC contracts prevent fighters from being in pro wrestling rings, and said that was a really good move, Tony. And I wonder if that was like a legit line about they probably wanted UFC champions to be here with Dan Lambert, and I wonder if they had any pushback from that. Because I think many is because did they not say 2 current champions? I thought they had said current.
I don't remember, but I took this to mean, his explanation for why Amanda Nunes and Jorge Masvidal didn't come up to help him last time.
Oh, okay. So not being in the ring this week. It was talking about when Archer attacked Dan Lambert the last month.
That's how I took it. Maybe I misheard.
There was a lot of yelling here, and I was trying to type as best I could. So I will take your word for that. He says that he has a message for the locker room. If you're feeling froggy, come out and jump. And AEW is not the answer to all of your pro wrestling prayers. It's a bunch of wannabe tough guys that couldn't wrestle their way out of a wet paper bag. It's filled with fans in their mom's basements looking up random shit on the dark web. And with that, the man standing up for all the fans in their basements was Lance Archer, who comes out, but before he can get to the ring and go toe-to-toe with Andre Arlovsky and Junior Dos Santos, who just looked like they didn't know what they were here to do. They were just standing there, and it was just stand there. That was their whole role. They didn't have to do anything else. And Archer gets attacked by Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page, the men of the year.
Yeah. I like the promo. I think he is great. I think he might need to. He gets really excited, I think, and thus it feels a lot more like a guy trying to do a heel wrestling promo, from the 80s, screaming at the top of his lungs, rather than somebody actually getting angry and coming out here and maybe feeling a bit more organic in delivery. But once he gets to that level, I think he is absolutely tremendous. The content of the promo I thought was a lot of fun. He is simply a lot of fun to watch. I was hoping to see Arlovsky and JDS actually get involved in some way here. don't exactly know why they were there. I mean, other than to appear, like backup. But I was hoping that they'd be able to work them into a spot somehow.
My first thought when I saw Junior Dos Santos there, I was like, oh my God, we're going to get the fourth JDS Cain Velasquez match in an AEW wrestling. That was what I first thought immediately.
Jeez.
And they were in Houston. That's where their third fight took place.
There you go. Will it be above or below sea level?
That would have to be in the contract. Yeah, I mean,
they will work that into a finish somehow. Yes.
Maybe Fabricio Verdum will come in, and we will get the multiple matches out of the former UFC heavyweight champions.
Yeah. So what is this like? Either Scorpio or Ethan Page against Lance Archer seems to be our next program.
Or Archer finds a partner of some sort. Like this did feel somewhat disjointed, unless we're going to see Dan Lambert return with the Men of the Year as like their mouthpiece.
Yeah, the disjoint. I mean, they'll explain it somehow. They'll try to make it make sense, but I wouldn't mind Dan Lambert with Scorpio Sky and Ethan Page. I don't know what sort of MMA connection you would have. I don't know how that necessarily fits Dan Lambert's kind of a MO of like hating on AEW and hating on modern professional wrestling. I don't know if Scorpio Sky or Ethan Page really kind of fit that old school bill, but I also feel like this was maybe one too many sneak attacks we've had from AEW. Like this is 40 minutes into the show on our third attack from behind. So to me, that felt a little bit too reliant on that trope.
Well, it is worth noting that Scorpio Sky does have a 2-1 MMA record.
Okay, there you go. Wow. What about Ethan Page?
Well, I mean, Ethan Page did fight Karate Man. I don't know if that was sanctioned or not.
That is the connection. Karate Man.
Yes.
Perfect.
Scorpio Sky last fought Lance Bush for University of MMA in March of 2015. He lost a split decision. This was a 3-round fight in LA. But okay. 2-1 record, and he has an amateur fight on his record as well.
That's more than most pro wrestlers. It works for me.
After that segment, we go to Jericho backstage. He has paid the price doing the labors and goes over all the attacks and injuries. He has survived them all and gets the ultimate prize tonight. Might not have Judas the effect or Judas the music, but you know what he has, Way? Momentum. And the fans are going to sing him to the ring. MJF, you're not as good as you think you are. And I'm getting my revenge for Blood and Guts, where you tried to kill me. I'm going to kick his bitchy little ass. And it's Jericho up and my jerk-off friend down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was, they must have been incredibly confident that these people were going to sing that song. Because Jericho, this was Jericho prompting them again to do it. And if they didn't do it, it would have been really embarrassing.
And the crowd did their part tonight. They could not have been more on board for what they were attempting. It was not, even with all the push this week, like they were going to the point of posting the lyrics, but it's still, you're still trying to get over 4,000 people to sing and be in sync. And they were not, like, it came off. It was a cool moment, and that's what they were trying to do.
It was very ambitious, and yeah, it worked out.
The Young Bucks against Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus for the AEW Tag Team Championship with about 5,000 people in the corner of the Young Bucks. Don Callis on commentary. There was so much in this match. And pretty much what they are doing is that any babyface challengers, they not only have to beat the Bucks, they have to overcome the numbers. And no matter how close they come, there is always somebody to stop them. And it does make logical sense for where they are heading now with the Young Bucks. But we see Jungle Boy sell throughout the first part here. After the break, he makes the hot tag to Luchasaurus. And Jungle Boy does this superplex to Nick while standing on the back of Luchasaurus.
Almost fell. Almost slipped. Hit it.
Man, those are pretty sturdy turnbuckles. Like that's a good base rather than a man's upper back. There's a double chokeslam by Luchasaurus to the Bucks, and then lifts up one into a cutter by Jungle Boy. Jungle Boy goes to the floor with a tope suicida. The Bucks then go to super kick Luchasaurus, and Jungle Boy goes off the back into a double super kick. There's an assisted indie taker that ends. Nick goes for the missile drop kick, and in landing it, falls on Luchasaurus with a senton. Jungle Boy kicks out of that. Marco Stunt gets on the apron, and this is when Kenny Omega runs down and attacks Marco Stunt with a chair. while wearing his shirt that reads Chick Magnet.
Mm-hmm.
So this guy must have just gone on a splurge of shirts at like his local Goodwill, and like these are all shirts that you would find probably in like the bargain bin, but very relevant for where they're going.
It would have been quite the goodwill to have both a Cookie Monster shirt and a Chick Magnet shirt in the same bin.
So the only thing I could think about here is the idea of a non-title match at some point between Kenny Omega and Marco Stunt.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I'd love it.
We've seen Kenny wrestle like a 8-year-old girl or 12 or however old she was. I imagine this would be just as memorable.
So Omega passes the chair to Matt, and this is repeating what happened on Friday. And Christian Cage comes out, spearing Omega and fighting him to the back. Rick Knox is distracted by all the members of the Elite, and Jungle Boy counters with a brainbuster onto the chair. Nick makes the save right at the last minute. They hit the Thoracic Express onto Matt for another big near fall. And Gallows and Anderson, Cutler and Nakazawa all get taken out with a moonsault by Luchasaurus. Jungle Boy then does a roll through on Matt and gets caught with the BTE trigger as Nick is back in position, and they pin Jungle Boy in 11 minutes and 26 seconds. Luchasaurus is just too late to save Jungle Boy. I thought this was awesome.
This match was insane. They piled so much in this against the Jurassic Express. It ended up making them look incredible even in defeat. There was so much activity in this, and oftentimes like that could be too much. Like last week we talked about that Hardy front office match and how much they put into that, and that to me did not work. The Bucks always have a way of making too much somehow perfectly look awesome and digestible. And I mean, coming out of it, you have great sense of story that you build to the next that tag team turmoil thing coming up,
the Eliminator tournament they're going to do,
the Eliminator tournament, and you ended up providing a great backdrop for them to continue to heat up Kenny versus Christian here.
Yeah, I mean, it was the latest case of the babyfaces coming out strong even in defeat to the Young Bucks. It's building to the Bucks not being able to benefit from the numbers game. This was just an awesome TV match. And man, everyone was raving about this first hour of Dynamite. Like, it was really solid, the first 60 minutes of the show.
Yeah, it was good.
After the match, Gallows brought Christian back to the ring. They're beating down Jurassic Express and Cage when Don Callis gets into the ring, kicks Christian, and in the process injures his foot. And Omega hits the one-winged angel, and Don Callis counts 3. And then Jungle Boy is tending to Cage as all the members of the Elite pose at the front by the entrance. So big segment. Mm-hmm. Tony interviewed Britt Baker, Rebel, and the problem solver, the fixer, Jamie Hayter. Britt explains that Red Velvet played dirty, but she also played dumb. Hayter says, I go way back with Britt, and makes the challenge to Red Velvet for next Wednesday in Milwaukee to fix her attitude. And Britt says, you said red isn't my color? Well, gold is definitely not your color.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty good line. I thought Hayter sounded pretty good. This opens up Baker for some tag matches. I think it also keeps Red Velvet in the mix as they're trying to build Chris Statlander. So, I wasn't a big fan of the introduction last week because I thought it kind of deflated an otherwise really hot segment. But in the end, it'll work out perfectly fine. It's a great way to reintroduce Jamie Hayter, and we have Britt Baker pretty much being a straight up heel again tonight.
Yeah, I mean, there was no Chris Statlander on this show, but I would imagine, she will be, figured in at some point over the next week when they're getting closer. There's a video on Matt Hardy and Orange Cassidy building up for an upcoming match with them. Matt Hardy explained he is not picking on Wheeler Yuta, who he beat on Dark on Tuesday, and he's going to kick their asses again. And Orange Cassidy said, maybe we should find out about that. Shivani brings out his big buddy, Paul Wight, and they note that there will be a special edition of Elevation on Thursday night featuring Matt Sydal versus Daniel Garcia. So we've got a Thursday night Elevation. Wight said it was amazing to get back into the ring last week. He's got an announcement, but he's interrupted by the factory. And QT explains that here in AEW, we don't say things to build up anticipation and let the fans down. The factory forgives Paul Wight for his attack last week, and then QT calls the people in Houston morons. And QT is privy to a lot of information, so he reveals the very private x-rays of Paul Wight's hip that required 5 operations. Wight is not embarrassed by the hip replacement that he had and his ass being shown on TV. He spoke to Tony Khan, and at All Out, it's Paul Wight versus QT Marshall, and QT sold this fear, this announcement. We've got it. Wight, Marshall at All Out.
Yeah, I don't really love it for All Out. I don't know if this really kind of lit Twitter on fire either. I don't really think it makes any difference to the interests people have in All Out. I even feel like the crowd, while they reacted well to the segment overall, I don't think they were exactly reacting with much fanfare for the match announcement itself. But I will say, we have seen what this company has done with somebody like Sting. If Wight can pull out maneuvers that we haven't seen him do in years, I think he'll be able to surprise a lot of people. He'll be able to surprise these crowds. Anticipation going into this one is low, but it doesn't mean that we can't leave the match with a very different opinion. And I just, tell everybody to look at what they've done with Christian versus Kenny in one single week. You're not going to be able to book, Paul Wight versus QT with the same ramifications, of course. But I feel like they have to be confident enough in a Paul Wight performance to put him out there on that stage to keep up with so many of these other guys. They have to assume that I have to assume that they have something surprising in store for us.
And I think it'll also be really short as well. Like, I'm not imagining this goes much more than 5 or 6 minutes.
Yeah, but even if it's short, like if it's simply him coming out there, knockout punch, like that's not going to be satisfying for a crowd.
I think you have to do more than that. Yeah, I don't think you can do
moonsault.
I don't want to see Paul Wight try and moonsault in 2021, but we'll see.
Those hips, though, man, that's modern technology.
He'll come out with Shakira.
Maybe.
Jade Cargill and Mark Sterling, they address Kiera Hogan. And that match is happening on Rampage on Friday night. And Cargill, for whatever reason, brought up Fuego del Sol winning the contract last week and forgot his name. But it's Cargill and Hogan on Friday night.
She's saying that this will be her version of what Miro did to Fuego del Sol.
Okay. Well.
Yeah, this will be cool. It'll be cool to see so is this is a match on Rampage, right? Yeah, it's a match on Rampage. Yeah. It's first of all, it's great to finally be able to see Jade Cargill wrestle again. It's cool to see Kiera Hogan make her, I suppose, broadcast debut for AEW. So I think it'll be it's one of 3 matches, right? On Rampage, and it'll probably get a lot of eyeballs. Maybe the most, certainly the most since her match with Shaq. Perhaps, I suppose. I don't. We'll have to see what ratings are like for Friday.
Tony Schiavone is with the Elite, and Callis calls the Young Bucks the greatest tag team of all time. And Schiavone announces that they have made an eliminator tournament involving the Lucha Brothers, Varsity Blondes, Private Party, and Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, where the winners of the eliminator tournament, he said, will face the Young Bucks in a steel cage match in Chicago. He did not say All Out, so it's not that specific when you're saying in Chicago this month, but I think everyone understood that this is for the pay-per-view.
Or TV.
There's a lot of Chicagos, yeah. Well, it's not happening on Friday, we know that.
Yeah.
But, it makes complete sense for a steel cage match. There is a reason for it. I guess the question would be, if people are leaning towards Penta and Phoenix, do you want to see the Bucks against Phoenix and Penta in a steel cage? Is the novelty, or is the interest of that match, does that enhance the match, or does that restrict them?
I think they'll be plenty creative, like even with the steel cage. I don't really worry about that. The fact that they might not be able to fly around and do their usual spots. I'm pretty sure the match would be good as well. But are we sure that it'll be them? do the others not really stand a chance?
I mean, I would say like Phoenix and Penta would be the most intriguing match. You just did Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy tonight. I would not assume Private Party. And I guess the Varsity Blondes would be a distant second to pick.
Yeah.
Taz is in the ring with the notorious Hook. I thought they were going to let Hook talk. I thought, man, Taz has an announcement to make with Hook. But instead he introduced Ricky Starks, who addressed Brian Cage, wants to talk to him face to face. But in the back, Powerhouse Hobbs is standing over a fallen Brian Cage, who gets to his feet, starts fighting Hobbs, and Starks just cuts the feed, and they all race to the back.
Yeah, not much to this, really, this week. It was one of those things where this was the moment where I felt like the show was moving so fast. This was probably one of those segments I'll totally forget.
There were a lot of angles on the show. Shivani is in the back with Death Triangle. Pac is going to humiliate Andrade in the same arena at the same event where Pac obliterated Kenny Omega on 2 weeks' notice back in 2019. And what chance do you have against a bastard like me? So Andrade and Chavo entered to answer that question and said that if Pac wants this match, you need to agree to his conditions. And they present him with this stack of computer printout paper. Just pages and pages here. And Chavo says that the Lucha Brothers will never be champions with a boss like Pac.
I was hoping we would end the segment like knowing exactly what the stipulations would be, but I mean, he's got to have a lawyer probably at least spend 2 weeks to go through those papers.
I mean, Pac was, he eventually got out of his WWE deal, so I'm sure he's been through the ringer when it comes to stipulations and trying to make sure that you are above board in a legal sense.
I hope we find out on Friday at least.
Do you think you can find a lawyer and read all this in that time? Like that, these are a lot of pages. I don't know what lawyer or how much the hourly rate is going to be to go through something like that and finalize it in 48 hours.
I mean, this would prompt me to just sign. Like, I wouldn't even read it.
Penelope Ford and Thunder Rosa. Thunder Rosa came out with a Texas flag. It's her adopted home. This crowd loved her. Ford gets drop-kicked off the apron. They were talking about the Lights Out match from back in March between Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker. And Rosa is rammed into the post. They go through the break. Ford's got the heat. And then Ford misses with a boot to the corner. Is hit with a butterfly suplex. And Ford goes for the Indian Deathlock. And Thunder Rosa turns her over while controlling the leg, but just loses it here and goes to a half crab. And it seemed like this was supposed to be the ending because they just kind of went back and forth for a bit and then did the exact same counter where the Indian Deathlock was countered and Rosa turned her over, applying a choke, and this was the finish in 8 minutes and 4 seconds.
I didn't really notice all that, maybe the potential mishap at the end in there, but overall, I thought the match was just okay. I didn't really think it got into the next gear, but I continue to be impressed with Ford as like a really good setup heel at the moment, and I thought the match again proved Rose's connection to the crowd being really strong. I mean, especially here wearing the Texas flag, being in her adopted hometown, but she's 100% a future title holder, perhaps next in line after Britt Baker.
They replayed Malachi Black's debut when he attacked Arn Anderson and Cody, and Tony is with Arn and son Brock. Arn says that sometimes things crash down out of nowhere, and all of a sudden, you're in the middle of turmoil. Malachi Black debuted 7 weeks ago, and I've just found out that next week, my son Brock is scheduled to face Black, and he tries to talk Brock out of it. Arn says, he's experienced, he's vicious, he'll hurt you. Brock says, I'm not here to air our dirty laundry, but the match is signed. I'm not asking you, I'm telling you. And out walks Brock. This is going to be a wonderful destruction next week.
It'll be great. I think what'll be even better is not necessarily seeing Malachi Black, but seeing Arn Anderson's reaction the entire time. Because, first of all, I think Brock came across really well here in his very little, minor speaking role, but he sounded like believable. Arn was tremendous. Now getting more of Arn acting and now getting him act as a father concerned for his son. To me, this felt like a much more natural version of your typical Ray and Dominic segment. And I just can't wait to see Arn react to see holding his son in his arms, decapitated next week.
Arn could be the star of next week's program or the following week after with the aftermath. But I think this will be like a great showcase for Malachi Black and something. Essentially you'll have Malachi Black and he's got Cody and Brock as his casualties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So they run through the upcoming shows. So Friday's Rampage has the start of the Eliminator Tournament with Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus against Private Party, Jade Cargill versus Kiera Hogan, and Jon Moxley versus Daniel Garcia. I don't have time for anything else.
It's 3 whole matches. It's only 1 hour, man. I don't know. I don't think it's happening, John. It's not.
They couldn't fit it in. And then next Wednesday, they're in Milwaukee, and we've got Malachi Black versus Brock Anderson, Orange Cassidy against Matt Hardy, Red Velvet against Jamie Hayter, and the Varsity Blondes against the Lucha Bros in the other Eliminator match for the tag tournament. So not a big lineup for next week, but if all goes to plan on Friday, they are going to have so much buzz coming out of the weekend. And I think that next week will be, the focus will not be these 4 matches.
If CM Punk is on the show, they can coast, okay? Like they don't need hard matches anymore. Like at least for like a good month, I feel like they can just coast off a CM Punk appears. CM Punk says 1 word. He'll say another word in 2 weeks. Like that'll be more than enough.
After a month, you can string together his message.
Yeah.
Miro does a promo about beating Fuego del Sol. He got something he doesn't deserve. I serve God every day and my hot wife every night. And his next challenge is issued to Eddie Kingston. Your Redeemer wants to talk. So this is the big match. I really was hoping that this would be Arthur Ashe Stadium, but it does look like they're going earlier to Eddie Kingston. But I think this is going to be, I hope they get, it's not just they announce it for, this should be the pay-per-view, to be quite honest. This is a big enough match for the pay-per-view and give us some promos for a few weeks.
Yeah, I mean, typically these TNT title defenses, who's going to win at the end of it because they feel like such mismatches. But Eddie Kingston is a real challenger, and this is a title that, of course, he debuted trying to fight for. So I feel like they need to try to push this one as one that you can conceivably believe Kingston might actually win. Certainly, there's a whole lot of great promo segments that you can get out of this rivalry, so I hope they take their time with it.
Jon Moxley cut this great promo. He said, everyone's coming to AEW now that it's the hottest company in the world. Why do they all think it's so easy? He makes fun of Hangman Page and his high school drama skits on being the elite. Insults Christian, says, I carried the title on my back through the dark and uncertain times. It's time to send a message about what it means to be on top. Daniel Garcia wants a taste of the main event. He needs to ask himself, is this what you really want? There's going to be doctors there Friday for your safety, but that's not my concern. Ask yourself if this is what you really want. Protect your neck, because this is no joke. I thought this was a great promo from Moxley.
Yeah, really good promo from Mox. And I like him mentioning everybody who might be on top, who might be going to the top in the future, including these baby faces. And it's almost a little bit startling to hear a babyface, talk down another babyface so, casually. Because, I mean, if this was real life, there would be no delineation between good guy and bad guy. That simply wouldn't exist. Everybody is your competition. Everybody is a competitor that you'd want to cut a promo on. So this felt very believable. No matter what Moxley's future direction is as a heel or babyface.
And what AEW has kind of leaned into is people filling the roles based on their situations. I think like with heels, if you have like a justifiable perspective, like a Jon Moxley that, I'm the guy that came here before this company was a big success. So now everyone's coming, now that it's safe to go to AEW, This, there's a lot of promo material for Moxley for a program with Punk where he can assume that role and be the guy to say, you didn't want to be here on day one. I did. And now you're coming now that we're all successful because of people like me that built this company. So it's like you can understand his perspective, even though this audience is going to be so behind CM Punk for those beginning programs. So I think, you do need, if you've got Punk and Danielson coming in, it's like you do need some people in heel positions, even if you don't do hard turns with them, to work with these people. So I really like this turn, and Moxley is one. Like, you don't have to do something dramatic. You can just have, his point of view that can work very well for some of these people coming in and have that option. Main event time. Jericho comes out, and Houston, they just sang Judas at the top of their lungs. Dasha went to do the ring introduction and then just stopped. She just stopped. She's like, why am I talking over this? And thankfully stopped this. Like, this would have really screwed up the crowd, I think, if they had to battle one another. So it was a great moment. The crowd was electric here. They nailed the song. Jericho looked so happy that this bloody thing worked.
Yeah, you can tell he looked genuinely impressed. Again, an incredibly ambitious thing. No matter how, I mean, again, this is a very dedicated audience, but still, it's one thing to maybe get them to jump on a new chant. It's another to get them to do karaoke without the lyrics on the screen. You're asking these people to like go through the effort of like memorizing these lyrics, or at least having them ready on their phone, which some people seem to. And it worked. It paid off. It was. So what is the next thing that they're going to do? What's the next ambitious thing that they'll ask? Belt collector to me is no problem now. They can clearly get people to chant belt collector easily.
I love the idea of like audience members the night before, like studying the song. It's like, yeah, can't go to bed yet. I've got to prepare for the show tomorrow night. Got to sing Judas. So the match begins on the floor. MJF grabs the camera and starts shooting the fans while delivering the middle finger. So Jericho, of course, knocks him down, and we get the shot from MJF's perspective as Jericho gives the middle finger and then returns the camera to the operator.
It was a wonderful little take on, the usual Jericho spot that we've seen, with Jericho, I suppose, knowing his own move and knowing his own gimmick really well. Visually, I don't know how well it played live, because I don't know if they got to see the camera angle of Jericho coming in, giving the finger and everything. But for me at home, it killed.
Jericho like hops up to the top, landed a double axe. Like, Jericho's babyface stuff here, like it's all, I'm not even going to say basic. Like, he's doing that top rope Rana pretty routinely now, and just seeing him do the lion salt and stuff. But it's like a lot of just little tricks that he has acquired that work. Like, this crowd, dude, he could do no wrong to this audience. They were into the 10 punches. Like, it was just any kind of offense he was doing, they were behind him as a babyface. So they had a great crowd to work off of here. They continued going here. And then after the top rope Hurricane Rana, MJF transitions to the salt of the earth, and he's biting the fingers. Jericho gets out. MJF is working on that injured arm that's been the major injury all the way back since Blood and Guts at the beginning of May. He hits the Heat Seeker, and that's after snapping the arm on the rope. Jericho kicks out. The whole crowd, they're chanting Jericho. I was getting messages from a fan that was in the building who was just telling me, like, it was electric in this crowd. Like, they were so loud inside the building for this match. There's a sleeper applied to MJF. He grabs referee Aubrey Edwards, and this allows him to low blow Jericho, and MJF applies the walls of Jericho. They do this close-up of Jericho selling. Have you looked at Jericho's teeth?
I've not on purpose. Okay.
This is like a Colgate commercial. His teeth are an amazing white. Like, my attention was just stuck as he's selling. Like, his teeth are so white.
Wow. I've not noticed that. Now I
Watch
will
next
try.
time. Like you will be blown away at just the like the shine off of these teeth. He fights to the rope. Big cheers as he gets to the rope. He reaches for the bat while MJF goes to the opposite corner to get the ring. Aubrey catches MJF with the ring. Jericho hits him with the bat behind Aubrey's back, and he goes for the Judas effect, but stops in his tracks because he cannot hit it. And this allows MJF to hit the Judas effect. And then he applies the salt of the earth. Jericho tries to counter, back to the salt of the earth, and Jericho is forced to tap out in 15 minutes and 20 seconds as MJF is the winner. After all the labors, MJF wins.
Really good match. Really good conclusion to this entire labors of Jericho storyline. I really liked the finish here. I thought the stipulation worked really well. You know, both of them. The Judas thing off the top, and then the Judas effect tease at the very end before Jericho caught himself. I thought it was a great way to end the feud.
I don't think the feud is over. I think that this is going, like, I see coming out of this, Jericho has to plead for one more match and put something of significance on the line, whether that's he has to disappear or like something major. Like, that's what this felt at the end, that this is not going to end on this match, and that's what I envision happening. And maybe that's like Jericho departs for a while after this.
Could be. Yeah, it could be. For me, I wonder if it does continue after this, because how many times can he be defeated by MJF? You know?
Yeah, MJF was putting over, like, he has 3 wins over Jericho. Like, this was a pretty... And it was, in some ways, like, this was MJF, who, yes, he put Jericho in the handicap position to not use the Judas effect, but here's the guy, he overcomes the bat shot and ends up winning in, you know, clean fashion here.
Yeah. I mean,
there were no, like, there was nothing really all that screwy here for MJF, who I maintain there will come the day that they will get a babyface out of MJF down the road.
Oh, anytime they want to make that change, they can. But, you know, in the end, this feud, I believe, has to end with MJF being on top. He is your upstart. He is the young project. He's the person who you're going to spend the next several years with Jericho being on his way out. So, is this the end of this feud? Is there... I certainly think that there will be enough audience interest for another one, especially if there's a really heavy stakes, some heavy stake attached to it. But
and if the crowd buys it, like, I think you're at this point now where I think you're slowly teaching your AEW audience that we're not going to screw you on stipulations. But I mean, that's still a long road, I think, for them. Like, if you were to throw out, like, I think honestly, if you were to put like a retirement stipulation, I don't think your audience is going to buy that, even with AEW sticking to their stipulations. I think it has to be something more reasonable, like a Jericho disappears for 6 months, which they will buy.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a retirement Jericho, I would love to see Jericho do a retirement storyline. I something tells me he's not ready for it, but I mean, the book did come out. You know, like, he is also the type for me to sense that, like, if he is going to retire, he's not going to tell anybody until he's actually ready to do it, and he'll shock you with something, you know, with the stipulation that actually goes through like this. I hope it's not anytime soon.
And it's a very interesting time. Like, he was a pivotal figure. You could argue the most pivotal figure, especially for year one. And now it's like AEW is going into the next phase. And where does Jericho, where does the Inner Circle fit in? Like, this is a company that is greatly evolving. Week by week as we're looking at this. And this next 6 weeks are going to be an enormous potential growth period for the company. So, yeah, I can't imagine that these two don't have some prominent spot at the pay-per-view. So that was my thought at the end of this, just thinking that Jericho has to put something big up to get one more match out of MJF. So we will see.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they can take a break from the pay-per-view, especially if, like, you know, we'll have to see how great this card is to round it out. But you're approaching the point now with these AEW shows where you have a lot of people of interest and you can't fit everybody on. And to me, that was the reason why I thought that they decided to do this one on TV and not at the pay-per-view. So I can see them not having a role.
All right, that was Dynamite. A pretty big show. Especially that first hour. Very strong stuff. I think this will be a Dynamite that is going to do a very strong number, given all the different elements they had to this, from the build-up of Jericho and MJF, Sting wrestling on TV, that I think was probably a big factor to it as well. And I think just it'll give you a sense of like the overall buzz that the company has going into Friday.
I agree. Yeah.
Let's see if the forum agrees with us or if they're all going to have dissenting opinions. Tonight, the poll shows this one an 8.09 out of 10. So topping 8. We start off with Dan, who writes, sometimes you just need to see Sting double Scorpion Deathlock a pair of Quebecers at 8 p.m. on a Wednesday night. Never change, AEW. Another fun episode of Dynamite. Sammy Guevara was on fire. Dan Lambert's talk radio blowhard type persona is still fun on a bun. And we got to enjoy a big drama-packed main event with crowd-pleasing spots and heartbreaking results. I don't think the Houston crowd is going to be confused with the Brooklyn Tabernacle Choir anytime soon, but there's nowhere else on TV where you're going to see thousands of Texas wrestling fans make their a cappella debut, and that's pretty cool. Shout out to all the wonderful fans at home that realize that Big Show wears the same brand of underpants that they do.
Trent says, I am typing this as I walk out of the venue. The show was fantastic. The crowd was absolutely out of control for the main event. I also went to the shows in Austin and Dallas a few weeks ago, but nothing from those shows was as rowdy as that main event. I'm curious to see where Jericho goes from here, as that felt like a goodbye of sorts.
Next one up here. Not sure if it was mentioned, but TSN2 in Canada will have Rampage this Friday after a football game. So here's to hoping the game doesn't go long. Very fun show tonight. Sting no-selling the table spot was just great, and the crowd popping for it was amazing. Congratulations to Sammy, and what a match. I thought Jurassic Express were going to win. I really bought the finish. What a way to enhance the Cage Omega match with the angle afterwards. The AEW crowds are just amazing. They just make the show feel bigger and give a huge boost to the matches.
We go to Johnny, who says, what a show. Sting looked amazing, and what heat 2.0 and Daniel Garcia had. Makes me excited for Garcia versus Mox. Sammy Guevara is climbing up that ladder to stardom, and I can't wait to see him solidify himself in the main event scene with the rest of the young stars. The tag match was incredible, and I can't wait to see the Bucks in a steel cage. And kudos to Houston for keeping in sync for Judas. A+. How does All Out look to you so far? While I don't like them taking out Hangman versus Omega from it, they have built a strong card that I don't mind anymore.
I mean, we don't have the whole card, so it's kind of hard to assess the actual card itself. But I think it has every expectation to be their biggest pay-per-view ever.
Well, at the moment, it's Kenny Omega versus Christian Cage, Pac versus El Idolo, and Paul Wight versus QT Marshall, and we have the Bucks versus a tag team eliminator winner, and also the women's casino battle royal. So I would say maybe a lot of major elements are probably still missing from it. Not the main event itself, I don't think is here yet. I don't see Omega and Cage. Do you see Omega and Cage being a main event?
Going on last?
Yeah. I personally don't think it's strong enough, but I mean, will they put it on last at the end?
Possible.
Let's just say I don't see it being the biggest draw on this show. So I think that's still to come and could very likely be CM Punk versus Darby Allin. That alone I think will be a huge appeal to make up for the rest of the show. As a card all on its own at the moment, without knowing what the Bucks tag team partners are going to be, it doesn't look amazing as yet. But it could look very different from between now and then.
Are you next?
I think you are.
That's what I thought. Brandon from New Jersey. Good evening, chaps. How goes it? Anywho, great first hour of Rampage. Then the second hour happened. From HFO nonsense to the Paul Wight, QT Marshall feud nobody wanted, to Malarkey Black versus Braun Anderson. All in all, the first hour was some of the best in TV for the past few months. The best in television. I don't think he's qualifying by just pro wrestling. Though there wasn't one tonight, do you think it's kind of ridiculous with all the Guerrero tributes on AEW? Okay, that had nothing to do with tonight's show. That's what we're focusing the feedback on, Brandon. Are you impressed with the way Gable Steveson is leveraging his position with all the major combat sports and pro wrestling entities? I think he's being very smart, the way he is keeping his name out there. And he's going to be at SummerSlam on Saturday as well. So we'll go for that. Was it just me, or does Alex Reynolds remind you of Jim Morrison from Wayne's World 2? Can I admit I've never seen Wayne's World 1 or 2?
Really? Wow.
Yeah, so I can't answer that question.
I see the resemblance. He does not remind me of him, though.
Okay.
Not in particular.
Thank you, Brandon.
Right.
We'll talk to you on Friday.
Thanks, Brandon. We got a Kate from Montreal who says, I had a few ideas of how the main event might turn out tonight, but none of them involved Jericho tapping out clean and leaving no path to a rematch. I'm curious to see where things go, not because I can't imagine them doing All Out without Jericho, but because I can't imagine them doing it without MJF at this point. Maybe a rematch between him and Guevara? And speaking of changing expectations for All Out, Moxley's promo and the fact that he's in the main event of Rampage this week makes me wonder if we're getting him versus Punk rather than Darby versus Punk. I actually like that idea more because it means Punk's win won't come at the expense of a rising star. Some really fun moments tonight, and I'm genuinely curious to see how things develop. Those seem like signs of a good show. I think they can build to a bigger match with Punk and Moxley later on. Like, that to me is one you shouldn't just throw out there on 2 weeks' notice, or however many weeks we are from All Out now. That to me is one you could spend months and months on, you know? I think that's a real big money match, and this is like Punk's return. This one doesn't need to be a money match, you know? Even though Darby Allin versus Punk is, but Punk versus Moxley, I think, is the type of match that'll attract a lot of lapsed fans who, you know, might not have watched AEW yet to try to sample it. It is a dream match, whether in WWE or AEW, between Dean Ambrose and CM Punk. That, you know, might get a lot of that outside interest. So I would actually save that for a bigger feud. What about you, John?
I would go ahead and do it at the pay-per-view. You only have 4 pay-per-views a year, and I think you want to do as big a match as possible out of the gate. Like, what are you expecting on Friday? Like, what do you think, like, how much do you put out there? Like, is he cutting a promo on Friday? Is he... Like, what do you think is going to be satisfying for the viewer at home beyond just Punk walking out?
I think he has to speak. I think he has to cut a pipe. Maybe I shouldn't say pipe bomb, but he has to cut a substantial promo. That's going to be his biggest audience for a long, long time. A lot of people showed up expecting him, and I think he has to deliver.
Does he start the show?
I don't know. I don't think he has to.
We go on to the next one here, and we've got Muggin. Dynamite's atmosphere makes any match feel important. The opening tag, while brief, was loaded with action. Sting no-selling the table spot was viscerally delighting. Spears and Guevara was very good. Bucks and Jurassic Express was fun, but I'm getting irritated by the constant interference. Putting the next tag title match in a cage is a smart move to put a stop to it. MJF and Jericho had the right man go over, and the atmosphere was something else as the audience didn't miss a word singing Judas.
Cool.
All right. Well, thanks, everybody. That's it. That was Dynamite going into Friday night, which should be... What are you thinking, Wai? It was 740... 1,000 viewers for last week's Rampage. What is, does this top? I'm going to say 820,000 viewers.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay. I think it's, I'm really curious to see like how much buzz this feels like on Friday. I think it's going to be pretty sizable. I think that it's going to be a pretty big event. The question is how many people it reaches. It's a tougher night, but it's, like, you only get to do this return once, so it's, although some might say his return at WWE Backstage was the big return to pro wrestling on a soundstage. I would say that. All right, we're out of here. Wai is back on Thursday with MCU later, so check that out if you are a Post Wrestling Cafe member. Friday night, we're live at 11:15 p.m. Eastern Time. I think we will be starting off with the Rampage review, like last week. But we'll also get to SmackDown, because they do have 2 hours to get set for SummerSlam on Saturday. So there you go. Thank you to everybody for listening, and all of those joining us live. We are here live Monday, Wednesday, Friday night, and we'll be back in 2 nights' time for Rewind to SmackDown.